Right. So, we the kinds of clients that are using the livestock finance, they're growing.
G'day, welcome back to the Farms Advice Podcast. Yes, it's another Tuesday and that means another cracking episode, but we're doing a little bit something different for the month of September and maybe into a little bit of October. We're piecing together some financial episodes. We did a survey, a question. We asked you a question on social media and you were looking for more sort of financial based episodes. So we've answered your questions. We'll have a range of financial episodes coming on. This is the very start of them, and it's up to you to get what you can out of each episode. But just know, myself and the guests do not know your personal circumstances, and none of this information is to be taken as financial advice, and just for general information only, and how you work with your own scenario, and go ahead and work with your professionals, your accountant, financial advisors, whoever you have in your court. Get them vouching for you, and they'll know best along with yourself. So let's get cracking. Well, welcome to the Farms Advice Podcast, Sophia Benedetti. Great to have you on.
Thank you, Jack. It's great to be here.
Amazing. And it's also, this is probably our first real interaction. It's great to meet other people within agriculture, whether they live in the city or the country, and helping out what farmers do and giving them the tools to survive. But we'd like to find out a little bit about you as well. What's your background and how did you end up in the role that you are today?
Oh, thanks, Jack. Yeah, my background is I was born in South Africa and I migrated to Australia in 2006. I was in investment banking back home in the telco sector, and I moved to WA with my husband, newly married. He's an engineer. It was sort of the start of the mining boom.
Yep.
And I joined Wesfarmers, and I was in the corporate office for a couple of years, and then joined the fertilizer business, which is where I developed my absolute love for ag. So broadacre ag, as wheat and canola, mostly that part of the world, and then had other roles within Wesfarmers in Sydney, and then more recently here in Brisbane. Was the CFO of NAPCO, which is where I met Richard, who's the co-founder of the business, and continue my learning in ag, in the cattle industry, and now in livestock finance.
And plenty to learn as well from the farmers end, and also from your end that supplies these services and products for us to use. Tell us a little bit about Legacy Livestock, how it came about, why it came about, and what it sort of stands for.
Yeah, thank you. We provide livestock finance solutions. We're very client-centric. We're interested in understanding our clients' businesses and how we can help them. So we're funding cattle and sheep. Yep. We're funding fattening, clients that are fattening animals, breeding, feedlotting. Yep. The way it came about is I worked with Richard Brummelcombe at NAPCO, and when we both left that business, we started Legacy. Richard had previously run a business, a livestock finance business, and had a bit of unfinished business in terms of delivering things for clients that we felt we could do, and so we're running this business, and we launched just over a year ago, and we've been working on the business for 2 years.
It's a very unique space for it in terms of like the clients that you deal with. They're like go-getter producers looking to optimize what they can do with their farm and try to make that process a little bit quicker. Is that what you're seeing coming through as your clients as well?
Yeah, 100%, Jack. Our clients, what it truly impresses me is just how commercial and progressive, growers are in our industry. Yep. And, the number of risks that they're managing on a property at any point in time, whether that's assessing the amount of feed that's out there, managing cash flow, animal welfare, logistics, often working with families, so family matters. It's truly impressive. And, we are seeing producers, progressive producers who are doing well, purchasing additional properties. The banks are often very happy to fund those properties, but there might not always be, enough money around for working capital, and that's where we come in.
Yeah, I was just about to go into that. Like you buy now the price of property where it's at, and you also need to stock that, whether with equipment or with livestock, and that sort of hurdle of getting that extra finance for that. So that's actually a channel that you sort of fill that gap, is it?
Yeah, that's right. So, where we the kinds of clients that are using the livestock finance, they're growing.
Yep.
And we can provide that working capital. It's complementary to what they might be getting from the bank. Our primary security is the livestock. We do come in behind the bank with secondary security. We take a caveat over real estate, but it's really about the livestock that we're funding. And clients who are purchasing properties or that want to free up working capital, they want to do the fencing, additional fencing, they want to improve waters, they want to invest in yards. It's like, well, if we finance some of the livestock, they can free up that working capital, they can do those improvements, they can in turn, carry higher AEs, higher numbers, improve efficiencies, and do those sorts of things. So that's how we see clients use our finance.
Throughout like the industry, like we're like a 1, 2, 3 person sort of team rolling around, and that's who I wanted to initially sort of first help for those sort of teams, and then that can sort of free what they do accessing this information. But for those people that are needing that sort of assistance, that backing to get to the sort of next level, to scale out their operations, how are you seeing it currently? Like, when was it that it started? 21, 22?
Yeah, 21 we started. We started lending about 12 months ago.
Yeah, so you started lending in quite a good market. Have you seen a bit of a shift? Like, have people already started to, I don't know, utilize it more or less because it's drying off a bit? Or how have you seen that in the last year or so?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Most recently, it's winter, so, not a lot of buying. It's sort of seasonal. Coming into the spring and, where prices have come to, we are seeing some clients see real opportunities there. It is also dry in some places. So, again, going to that point around, clients being risk managers, you've got movements in underlying prices. If they're feeding, they've got to manage, the cost of feed, manage, how much it costs to deliver improvements on a property. So we are seeing clients manage those risks, think about the traits, and really sort of come forward and say, actually, I think I can lease a block down the road that does have good feed, and I'd like to run additional, backgrounders. Can you have a look at my financial situation and the way that I'm doing business and help me understand whether I'm a candidate for livestock finance? So, the opportunities are there for a lot of clients, particularly, with current prices. Some clients are seeing those opportunities to buy.
What is the screening process? You just sort of mentioned, like, if they're a good candidate for it. Obviously, you get a fair few inquiries that you can't always fulfill. What is the scenario that you can fulfill? What are we looking for?
Yeah, so the way we start is always having a chat to the client. So either, filling an application form, pretty short application online, or just picking up the phone, giving us a ring. You'll chat to somebody who's very skilled, probably Richard or Nick, and ask a series of questions, have a bit of a chat. We always come out and see our clients. So we'll come on farm and sit around the kitchen table and have a chat about what our clients are trying to achieve. And we'll be really open about whether we can help or not, and why. And often we see clients, address those things and come back or go, thanks for the feedback. That's really good to understand. So it's clients that, have reasonable asset base. They typically do have loans from the bank or otherwise. There's a fair bit of equity in there. We're looking at the amount of the size of the loan relative to the strength of the financial position of the client. We're looking at the management practices on property, including animal welfare. We're looking at the way the clients conduct themselves in the local community, and conduct themselves generally. So the normal stuff, you do the credit checks, and a big part of it is the on-farm visit. How's the property looking? Oh yeah, those look like reasonable yards, and doing a pretty good job with cattle. They look pretty healthy. What's the grass looking like? Is there reasonable feed there? Oh, how many are you running? How many do you typically run? All the normal things that any person probably would have a yarn with their neighbour about. We've got a team that understands producers and wants to try and find a solution.
Yeah, I think going back to that question of like welfare for the animals, does it add like that? Is looking for that sort of social license, being we're in the media more often at the moment because the welfare for our livestock, and trying to prove that from the farmer producer's back end. How much does that play a role in getting this sort of through the finance?
Yeah, look, it's very dear to our heart.
Yeah.
Animal welfare, and I think anyone who's in the industry would say on average, that producers have got animal welfare actually very, very close to their hearts. There are those instances where you do see it on the front of the paper, in the media, but generally I think I've been delighted with the way we conduct ourselves as an industry. Obviously there's always those cases. We have a zero tolerance for animal welfare issues. We monitor producers, and we do have a no trade. Like there's certain producers that if they have had an instance of an animal welfare, we won't and we can't support their businesses. We are sourcing our funds from investors and credit funds, banks that are looking to ensure that their money goes places where it's responsible and sustainable. And we have a responsibility overall to our animals, but to our to the community in general, and then in turn also to our investors and debt funders to be really considerate about that. And that is one of the things we do personally assess when we come on property. And look, we're a small industry. One of the things I love about our industry is you go to the local pub in a town and so-and-so knows so-and-so. And, if you're doing the wrong thing, you bet somebody in that community knows. There's no hiding it. It's one of the wonderful things about agriculture is people do still know each other very intimately. A little bit different to maybe some city roles where you don't always know everyone. It's not as easy to maybe get a read on things.
I think if you're getting a couple $100,000 to buy livestock anyway, you're not looking to have a welfare problem for your sheep or your cattle for that. Have you gone into sort of niche areas, water buffalo or something, or you sort of the clientele's around the sheep, cattle industries?
Yeah, look, cattle and sheep, really. Maybe as we, get a lot bigger down the track, we might consider, but, it's pretty much cattle and sheep at this point. Yeah.
How's it working within feedlot sort of situations? Because that would actually be quite a quicker turnover, I'd imagine, rather than bringing them onto your place. And then how does that work with the drawn out ones, I suppose, bring them back to your farm?
Yeah, you're talking my language, quicker turnover. I mean, we've got, trades that are longer, the feedlots are quicker. We do fund feedlots, we fund the feed, and we provide those feed advances. So the way our product works is we approve a limit for a client, whether that's a, client that's background in cattle, or feedlot in cattle, or sheep, or whatever it might be. And then the client will draw loans under that. So, if the stock at the Roma sale yards, that's a loan.
Yep.
We'll settle that invoice in full, and then the interest will accrue on a monthly basis. And then at the end of the trade, and the end of the trade might actually be the client bought 100 steers and maybe only sold, the lead 40 in and amongst a whole lot of others. We'll settle the trade, and it might be a mixed bag, and we can manage that. It might be a mixed bag from 3 loans under that limit. We can manage that, and then the client gets the profit that comes out of the trade. So how does it work? We're settling an invoice, whether that's a feed advance, or it's the purchase of livestock in a backgrounding scenario, and then at the end of the trade, we're paying the profit to the client.
There's quite a few avenues. The feed financing, I suppose you call it, that is working within the feedlotting game, and not on farm if it dries up a bit to feed out. Like if that deep.
Yeah, we can do it on farm too. So a client that is feeding on farm,
yep.
We can consider those feed advances as well. And we actually are seeing quite a lot of clients think about that. We were in Holbrook just on Thursday and Friday last week, and there is a bit of talk of setting up some feeding on properties just to manage through drought, mitigating risks, thinking ahead, creating those situations where the cattle and the sheep are looked after, and if there is some dry conditions, that there is a backup plan.
Yeah, it's like just trying to retain the feed out in the paddock as well as the ground cover and everything like that. I'd imagine as the years sort of run on to you, the back end data that you see and the sort of trends of what producers are doing and what they aren't doing, I think that would be a pretty cool sort of report at the back end. It's sort of supplementary financing, the genre, I suppose, for it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And look, our clients take us to the best commercial trades.
Yeah.
They're assessing, this yourself, you're assessing the various buy-in prices, sell prices, trades, length of trade, when do you sell, how fat does the animal need to be, which selling centre do you take it to, what is the logistics cost of moving the animal from one selling centre to another. And I mean, it's very sophisticated work that our clients are doing. And so they'll always, our philosophy is the good, progressive clients, they're making those commercial judgments all the time.
Yeah. And the psychology of, like, if you buy in a couple hundred head of cattle or even sheep, and when you should sell those, hold them, or you should buy some more in, those sort of decisions I find pretty fascinating about how people react under duress or different situations. If you've got feed, you're probably making a bit better decision rather than you're under the pump. With a couple of years under your belt, how do you sort of see those scenarios sort of working together, and how that can sort of play out?
Yeah, look, I think it's human psychology, isn't it? I mean, you see it in investing markets. It's not dissimilar. Sort of this whole school of behavioral finance. When the market's dropping, people sell. And then the market's increasing, everybody sort of jumps in. I think, maintaining a disciplined approach. If the animal's reached its ideal weight, you'll make profit on some trades and, losses on others. I mean, I think but we're all human, so I think, I can't really comment too much because I'm not sort of doing a day-to-day, but I really do feel for clients who, where, the logical decision might be different to the one the clients might be making, but you get it. I mean, we're all human, right? And, sometimes the market does come back or falls further. You don't really know. You're making an assessment at the time.
Yeah.
And, those underlying prices, you don't really know where they're going to go. So I think just thinking it through and, making those informed decisions as best as anyone can. But, we are human. I do it in my own life too. You sometimes make the not so logical decision, but
yeah, then you'll have a more informed decision off the back of that. So we've
chatted about a few scenarios there, but you've also got calculators online, which is quite a useful tool for someone to run their own scenario in. Just run me through those quickly and see how people can quickly get to know what they're doing.
So I hope you're really enjoying this episode, but can you please do me a huge favor? Make sure that you subscribe to the podcast, and even as a cherry on top, give us a review on Apple or Spotify. That just allows us and more farmers to listen in, to hear this content, and they don't need to travel 1,000 Ks just to become successful. So make sure you share it around. Back to the episode.
So the intent of the calculators online are to help prospective clients and existing clients make an assessment of, what's it going to cost me to enter this trade. So you might have a cattle trade at 270 days. You can make an assumption of what you can buy in. You know what local prices are. You're sort of ready to head off and buy stock. You sort of might assume that the market drops. You might assume that the market is flat or increases sort of at some point in the future, 270 days or 180 days. You know what kind of animal you're targeting to buy in terms of weight. And then you're saying, well, what is this livestock finance going to cost me? How much is it going to cost? A typical trade, assuming the buy-in price and exit price are the same, is around $6 of profit for the client versus $1 in finance cost. And so if you've got a property and you've got grass for 1,000 head, but you can only fund 700, the idea is that, you can generate an additional, profit and cash flow from using the product. So that's what the calculators are there for.
Yep.
There to kind of, inform the decision, have a bit of a look at what it can cost, and be a tool for our clients in considering those trades.
Do you have an average day that clients utilize the finance for? So you're going to sell at the end of 100 days or something like that? Especially for feedlots, they would know that number a lot better than out on the farm.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's different for every client. Sometimes a client will say, oh, look, this is a 6-month trade. And then, 8 months in, they're holding on to the animal, might have not performed as well. The lead might have gone out at 5 months and there's still a tail. Yeah. In the feedlot, it's pretty structured. They know what the average daily weight gains are. They know the average, weight in, what they're targeting. They know how those, animals are converting. So that's pretty structured. Yeah. How the animals perform, sometimes it's wet. Sheep might not go as well as, the client thought, or they hold on to the sheep that want to, get another wool clip. So, the trades do change. We'll ring the client and say, hey, you sort of said 6 months, how are you tracking? But there's no fixed period a client has to buy and sell. Typically it's, a 12-month, up to 12 months. Yep. And, we just get an indication, okay, it's a backgrounder. So what do you reckon? 9 months, or, it's a longer trade or a shorter trade or whatever it might be. So we do get that indication sort of coming in, but, also we recognise things can change and the client might change how long they want to hold the animal for.
So it's just about a bit of ongoing contact with the farmers, the producers, trying to get those animals up to a certain weight.
Yeah, that's right. And we're talking to our customers really regularly, because, a client that has $1 million limit might actually do 10 different lines. There's 10 invoices. And then when they sell, they might actually have, 10% of every line as they've drafted the animals and, finished them. They might actually, sell from different mobs. And so, we're chatting to the clients. Oh, where would you like that profit paid? I'll just check in. You want it in that account? Yep. Great. How's things? Yeah. Have you had any rain? Just might have a little bit of a yarn and then move on. So because it's, buying and selling livestock is quite transactional, we're touching the client regularly, and we loving having a bit of a catch up.
Absolutely. Those weekly market catch ups, they're pretty good as well. For you've been on farm a bit, and all your team have been on farm to check out the clientele that are coming in to Legacy Livestock. What does a Legacy Livestock producer look like? What does their farm look like? Like you said about their achievements, like that initial question you asked, what are they looking to achieve in that 5-year period sort of thing?
Mm. Our clients are generally growing. They're generally in a bit of a hurry. They're probably growing a little bit faster than the bank can digest.
Like property size or head per hectare sort of thing?
Just the way they're doing things, they can, see that fencing needs to be addressed, but, they want to get on with it. They can, recognize that it makes sense to aggregate the property next door that's for sale. They can get the bank to fund it, but they, can't get enough finance to fully stock it. So they're progressive, they're excited, all ages. We've got, the 30-something young couple to the, families that are supporting one another into the next generation. We've got, clients that have been operating for 40 years who, still got a real buzz about them and continuing to do different things. So it's all sorts. Some clients want $500,000, some clients want $3 million, some clients only want $100,000, and so they're very motivating people. What does the average client look like? It's a client who wants to access finance to do stuff, and that stuff might be, okay, I want to invest in capital, I want to have additional stock running on this property because I'm more confident now in terms of my grazing management. They might have done a lot of work on rotational grazing. They might have put additional fences in, so they've got smaller paddocks. They're more confident they can hold additional stock, or they bought the property next door, or they got so confident in what they're doing or keen to lease a block and run additional livestock. So we're seeing a lot of different ways our clients are using our funding, and that's why we don't have a one size fits all. It's not like you have to trade in 6 months and you have to repay in 6 months or 8 months or 9 months. It's like, what do you need? What are you trying to achieve? And we will have a chat with you about a livestock finance solution to try and work with you in what you need and give you a solution. That's what really gets us excited. How do we help that client? There's not really a one size fits all, Jack. It's a bit of a tell us what you need and we'll try and help you.
Yeah, the more I deliver these talks or talk to the farmers in the background, like it just amazes me. You think you know that region, but then they operate so differently. And like coming in with the climate, and the climate's sort of changing. We've got a bit of an early spring, even though the evenings are still quite cold in central west New South Wales here. But I think it'd be great to be a fly on the wall in these conversations, just to see how different operators work.
Oh, Jack, it's, I'm so humbled. I go out, I don't go out nearly enough as I would like to. And, always keen to go out with the guys, but, you sit around the kitchen table and it's, we're so modest, I think, in, as a sector. I think, you can have a client worth, an eye-watering asset position, and you're sitting around the kitchen table and you're having a chocolate digestive biscuit out of the, the knocked up, biscuit tin, and you're having a lovely chat, and, this person sitting opposite you is, more successful than 10 other people you met in the middle of Sydney at a work thing, Yeah. So, it's just, wonderful to, I do really feel at home in the industry, just how you can always meet anyone you can have a chat with, and just kind of go, oh yeah, what are you up to? And people are always keen to have a bit of a cuppa or a beer or something. So yeah, I really like that about our industry.
Yeah, we definitely are humble. Like they may be signing 1 million, 3 million sort of contract with you, and then they're giving you instant coffee and they're just on the run. They've got these things going on. If you look at them like walking down the street, you wouldn't even know the sort of operation. They should be classed as farming CEOs.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, honestly, like some of the people, we interact with you, you just, it is super humbling. I like that. Farming CEOs, absolutely. The risk managers, you think about the careful decisions that any one of, growers are making daily. It's okay. How am I going to manage this? There's quite a few factors out of our control in our industry, whether that's weather, commodity prices, we're dealing with live animals, so you've got to be on your game. You've got to know what you're doing, and our clients do, and people in our industry do.
Yeah,
it's very, very humbling. Yeah,
but they won't say it, so hopefully we can get a few more on the podcast. But we've chatted about the ambitions of your clients and producers that are go-getters. Where do you see Legacy Livestock going in the next 5-10 years? Where would you like it to go? What was that sort of your own sort of kitchen table chat, your goal?
Yeah, I think the focus on the client, sort of being, keeping operating 5 or 10 years from now in a way that's like puts the client first. I think, that's our ambition and our vision, is keeping doing something meaningful for the industry, and, growing in a way that means we can, keep raising finance and, getting of scale so that, it remains cost effective and, improves. So, as we grow, we can attract better financial, better funding lines. And that in turn, means we can be, sustainable and, deliver longer term. So, but it's client, and I think if we can maintain that special, small, agile solution for the client focus, I think that'll be a, wonderful outcome for us in terms of our company vision and, where we're going over the next 10 years.
It's been amazing to find out a bit more about yourself, Sophia, and your business, taking it forward as a co-founder of Legacy Livestock. But what's one piece of farms advice you'd like to pass on from this conversation? What's one thing you'd like producers to know, how they can work a little bit better?
Yeah, thanks, Jack. I think this is a very interesting question. And I think, the one piece of advice is there is a lot of value in planning. Yeah. And it's difficult, it's difficult to take a day out or take an afternoon out and just sit quietly and say, okay, what's the plan for the next 3 months? What's the plan for the next week? And what are the things that could happen? What are the scenarios? Okay, if it's dry or gets dry, what are we going to do? Are we going to think about that in a week, a month, 3 months? And, most people are managing grass. They know how much feed is on property when. It's that planning, and it's the family conversations, and it's, I feel that there is, a lot of value in planning. And look, you can have a plan a month or go to plan, but then you'll create a new plan.
Yeah.
Plan. Yeah, and you'll revisit the plan and go, okay, we thought this. Did that work out? Yeah, that was pretty good. Okay, tick. Oh, we thought this, but that didn't really work out like that. Okay, what are we going to do? Whereas, we're all busy. We're getting on with things, and I think just taking the time to plan feels like it, in my opinion, it is really useful exercise.
Absolutely. This year I've been I sort of framed it around frameworks and structures, processes for farmers, producers to extract a little bit from each guest of that. So I think that's fantastic about the planning of it. It goes really well for my hidden theme for the year anyway, for what I want to do for our farm. But Sophia, how can we get in touch? How can we find out a bit more by Legacy Livestock? Don't be humble yourself. For the farm CEOs, how can they get in touch?
Yeah, look, jump into our website, legacylivestock.com.au. Ring us, 1300 965 683, and we'll either pick up the phone or ring you right back. So it's a bit of a race to who picks it up. We have a bit of a giggle if it rings more than 3 times, and probably get Richard or Nick, but you might get Abby or myself or, someone else in the team. So yeah, please ring us. We'd love to have a chat. We're pretty open, and we're happy to take any questions. So, please ring us and have a chat. We'd be delighted, to see if we can help.
Amazing. And we'll have the links in the show notes as well, so you can just drop down below if you're keen on it. So, Sophia, thank you very much for coming on the Farms Advice podcast.
Thanks so much, Jack. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you.
Once again, thanks for listening to this episode. So this episode was going into livestock financing and how it may work for producers out there looking to free up their own working capital, and how that may be an element into their business and how they can actually succeed off the back of it. I think it's always interesting to have these conversations, whether you're using it or not. It's pretty cool that we get to have the likes of Sophia, and thank you so much for her time coming on, when really you wouldn't actually hear about livestock finance via podcasts. So hopefully we're making that a little bit more normal on the Farms Advice podcast, so that farmers out there can succeed in what they do, but they can also find out what others are doing, what's available, products and services, and who's actually in your corner vouching for you, trying to get the most out of your farm. So it's a very unique sort of position that agriculture is in. Those products and services that are servicing us are really there to enhance and grow our own businesses. And we're at the very middle of that as farmers. So we really need to harness our own capabilities, but ensuring that we have the capacity to do so. Anyway, I tend to ramble on. I'll let this get underway, but make sure you do subscribe to this podcast. I think it's around 50% of the listenership currently are subscribed. So there's 50% more to go. And that is the element that Apple and Spotify drive it out to more listeners, and we are battling against all the other businesses podcasts out there. And I think last year or the year before, we actually came in 15th, and we held that for 10 days. So let's get us back up there for the Aussie farmers. Until next Tuesday, keep on farming.